The Sven Dominion had ruled the stars for centuries, their empire spanning dozens of systems. Their war fleets were unmatched, their soldiers trained for battle from childhood. No enemy had dared challenge them in generations. That was why the sudden blaring of alarms across the high command station was met with confusion rather than fear. Critical alert, human warship detected. The warning flashed across every screen in the control center. A dozen Svaney officers froze, turning toward the central display. In the middle of the holographic map, a lone red dot pulsed steadily, moving through their territory. No escort. No fleet. Just one ship. Commander Vec narrowed his yellow eyes. A veteran of countless battles, he had seen many threats, but this was something new. A single human vessel, he muttered. They dare enter our space alone? Yes, Commander, an officer confirmed. It is maintaining course, ignoring all warnings, and has not responded to our hails. Vec leaned forward, his claws gripping the armrests of his command chair. What class of ship? The officer hesitated, then tapped a control panel. The screen zoomed in, revealing a name painted across the vessel's hull. HSS Resolute. A heavy silence settled over the command center. Everyone in the Dominion knew that name. The Resolute was more than a warship, it was a legend. Said to be faster than any known vessel and stronger than the mightiest dreadnought, it was a ghost whispered about in war rooms and on battlefields. It always appeared when conflict was near. And now, it was here. Vec's grip tightened. How many ships do we have nearby? 17 patrol ships, 4 cruisers, and 2 dreadnoughts, Commander. Should we intercept? Vec didn't answer immediately. He studied the data before him. No fleet. No reinforcements. Just one ship, drifting into their space like it belonged there. A trap? A test? Or something far worse? Scramble all available ships, he ordered at last. Surround it. Do not fire unless provoked. The officers moved swiftly, sending orders across the system. Within minutes, Svaney warships had moved into position, forming an iron wall around the lone human vessel. Still, the Resolute remained silent, undeterred, and unwavering. That was when the real fear began to set in. On the bridge of the HSS Resolute, Captain Eilis Voss observed the tactical display with practiced calm. They've surrounded us, his first officer, Lieutenant Wren, reported. 17 patrol ships, 4 cruisers, 2 dreadnoughts. Full blockade formation. Voss nodded. Expected. The Svaney were proud, always eager to show their dominance. He had seen it before. He would see it again. Any messages from them? Wren tapped a control. A deep, growling voice filled the air. Human vessel, you are in violation of Svaney space. Identify your purpose immediately, or we will open fire. Voss leaned back in his chair, considering his words carefully. The mission was too important for misunderstandings. He pressed the communicator. Svaney Command, this is Captain Eilis Voss of the HSS Resolute. We mean you no harm. However, I strongly advise you not to interfere with our course. A long silence followed. Then, you expect us to allow a human warship to pass unchallenged? We do not tolerate threats in our space. Voss exhaled slowly. Commander, if we were here to fight, you would already know it. Aboard the Svaney flagship, Vec's jaw tightened at the human's calm tone. Confidence? Or arrogance? He turned to his officers. Scan their systems. Seconds later, the results appeared. No active weapon signatures detected, Commander, the sensor officer reported. Cannons offline. No energy spikes. Shields are up, but not at full strength. Vec frowned. A warship entering enemy space unarmed? It made no sense. What are they up to? He muttered. Then an alarm blared. A new object had appeared at the edge of the system. It was massive, and it was not human. Vec's blood ran cold. For the first time in his life, he felt something strange. Not anger. Not battle rage. Fear. The Svaney war fleet floated silently, encircling the HSS Resolute like hunters closing in on prey. But inside the High Command Center, confusion had turned to alarm. The human warship was not attacking. Its weapons were inactive. Its shields were at minimal power. And yet, it did not slow down. And now, something far worse had arrived. Commander. New contact detected, an officer shouted. Vec turned sharply toward the holographic display. A massive, dark shape loomed at the edge of the system, emerging from the void. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, larger than a dreadnought, almost the size of a small moon. Its surface was smooth and dark, shifting in unnatural patterns as if it were alive. It emitted no energy, no heat, no signals. It was just there. Then, without warning, a pulse of energy erupted from the entity. Instantly, several Svaney patrol ships went dark, their engines failing, their systems unresponsive. "We're under attack," someone shouted. Multiple ships disabled. No power. Panic spread through the command center. Vec clenched his fists, his mind racing. What kind of enemy was this? A voice cut through the chaos, calm, steady. "Svaney fleet, disengage immediately. You are not equipped to handle this threat." Vec's eyes snapped to the screen. It was Captain Ilis Voss. "You knew about this," Vec growled. "What is that thing?" A pause. Then Voss answered. "Something ancient. Something deadly. We call them Star Reapers." Inside the Resolute, Captain Voss watched as the Reaper stirred. It was fully awake now. Soon, it would release its full power, and when it did, nothing in this system would survive. "Status report," he said. "Shields at full," Rin answered. "Weapons ready. Countermeasures online." Voss nodded. "Good. Begin energy frequency calibration. We'll only get one shot." Rin hesitated. "Sir, the Svaney fleet is still in the line of fire." Voss sighed. "Of course they were. Open a direct channel to their flagship." Moments later, Vec's face appeared. His expression was tense, his sharp yellow eyes burning with suspicion. "Explain." "Now." Voss didn't waste time. "That thing is a Star Reaper. It doesn't attack like normal ships, it drains energy. The more you fight it, the stronger it gets." Vec's jaw tightened. "You expect me to believe this?" "You've already lost ships," Voss said. "How much more proof do you need?" Another pulse of energy rippled through space. More Svaney ships flickered and died. Vec took a slow breath. He had spent his life fighting enemies he could see. This was different. He looked at Voss. The human's eyes held something he recognized. "Experience. You fought these things before?" Voss nodded. "Yes. And we've destroyed them." Vec exhaled sharply. "Then tell me, how do we kill it?" Voss smiled. "Now you're asking the right question. Begin attack sequence. Target its core structure," Captain Rin ordered. The ship's weapons powered up, not with conventional plasma cannons, but with something else. Something designed specifically for this enemy. "Sand command, fall back," Captain Elias Voss continued, turning to Commander Vec. "Let us handle this. If you stay, your ships will be nothing more than fuel for the Reaper." Vec growled low in his throat. "Retreat?" The Sani never retreated. But this was no ordinary battle. And humanity was fighting like they had done this before. He made his decision. "All Zen ships, pull back," he commanded. His officers were visibly shocked, but none argued. They had no choice. As the Telvan fleet withdrew, the HSS Resolute surged forward, its weapons glowing with a strange, unnatural energy. For the first time in history, the Seleni watched as humans waged war against something far worse than any empire. The HSS Resolute cut through the darkness of space like a silent predator. Ahead loomed the massive Star Reaper, its shifting black surface absorbing all light. From a safe distance, the Selene fleet watched in stunned silence. Their warships had been powerless against the strange entity, yet the human vessel advanced without fear. Commander Vec sat rigid in his chair, claws gripping the armrests. His fleet had never run from battle until now. His officers were shaken. The Sani were proud warriors, but they had never faced an enemy like this. A force that didn't rely on fleets or armies, a predator that didn't need conventional weapons. And the humans, they had fought it before. "Commander," an officer broke the silence. "The Resolute is charging its weapons." Vec narrowed his eyes. "What kind of weapons?" The officer hesitated. "Unknown, sir. The energy signature is unlike anything on record." Vec leaned forward, watching the display. "What are you hiding, humans?" Inside the HSS Resolute, Captain Voss stood at the center of the bridge, his expression calm but focused. "Status?" he asked. "Energy calibration at 90%, Lieutenant Wren reported. The Star Reaper is preparing to release another pulse." Voss exhaled slowly. "We don't have much time." He pressed a button, opening a direct broadcast to the Selene fleet. "Selene Command, this is Captain Voss. Listen carefully." Vec's voice came through immediately. "What game are you playing, human?" Voss's tone remained steady. "This is not a game, Commander. If we fail, your empire will fall. This Reaper is not here by accident. It's here because of us." A heavy silence followed. "Because of you?" Vec growled. "Explain." Voss's gaze fixed on the shifting darkness ahead. "This isn't the first one we've seen. These things are older than any of our civilizations. They move from system to system, feeding on energy, destroying entire fleets." Vec's eyes burned with suspicion. "Then why is it in Sani space?" "Because," Voss said grimly, "it's hunting us." Vec felt his blood run cold. The humans were being hunted. Before he could demand more answers, the Star Reaper attacked. A wave of pure energy rippled outward faster than light, engulfing the battlefield. Selene warships went dark, left drifting helplessly in space. But the HSS Resolute held firm. Vec's eyes widened. "How?" The human ship stood defiant against the energy wave, its strange glowing weapons humming with power. Then, for the first time, the Resolute struck back. "Fire," Voss commanded. The ship's experimental weapon unleashed a pulse of blinding blue-white energy, striking the Star Reaper's core. The dark mass trembled violently, emitting a soundless psychic howl that sent a chill through every being in the system. Selene officers flinched, their minds momentarily gripped by alien terror. But the humans? They stood resolute. "Status?" Voss asked. "Direct hit to the core," Wren reported. "Structural integrity destabilizing, but it's not enough." Voss nodded. "Prepare the second wave." The ship's weapons hummed again, building toward another devastating strike. Voss reopened the Selene channel. "Commander Vec, your ships need to move now. If they're too close when this thing goes critical, they'll be annihilated." Vec clenched his jaw. He despised taking orders from humans, but he wasn't a fool. "All Zen ships, retreat to a safe distance." His officers obeyed without question. The fleet pulled back, leaving only the Resolute to face the darkness. A moment of silence hung over the battlefield. Then, the Resolute fired again. A second blast, twice as powerful, struck the Star Reaper's core. The entity convulsed, its surface cracking apart to reveal something horrifying, a network of twisting, shifting tendrils pulsing with unnatural energy. And then it exploded. A shockwave tore through space, but the Selene ships were far enough away to avoid the impact. The Resolute, protected by its mysterious shields, remained intact. The darkness cleared. The monster was gone. Vec sat in stunned silence. His fleet, his entire empire, had been powerless against that thing. And yet, the HSS Resolute had destroyed it as if it were routine. A transmission came through. Voss's voice was calm as ever. "You're welcome." Vec exhaled sharply. His entire life, he had believed the Sani were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Now, for the first time, he wasn't so sure. He stared at the Resolute, the lone human ship that had just saved his people. One thought burned in his mind: what else were the humans hiding? The Star Reaper had already drained multiple Exxon ships. Now, it turned its hunger toward the lone human vessel. But this time, the humans were ready. "Now!" Voss shouted. The HSS Resolute fired. A beam of unstable white-blue energy shot directly into the Reaper's core, bypassing its ever-shifting outer shell. The beam pulsed with a strange rhythm, disrupting the entity's ability to regenerate. For the first time in thousands of years, the Star Reaper screamed. It wasn't a sound, it was a feeling. A deep, terrifying sensation that clawed at the minds of everyone nearby. Zealand officers shuddered in fear. Even hardened warriors felt a cold chill run down their spines. But inside the Resolute, the crew held firm. "Captain, the attack is working." "Core instability detected." Lieutenant Wren called out. Voss gritted his teeth. "Increase output. Overload the core." Every generator, every reactor pushed to its limit. The energy beam grew brighter, tearing through the entity's form. The Star Reaper twisted and writhed, its dark mass collapsing in on itself. Then, it exploded. A massive shockwave rippled through space. The Salvini fleet, now at a safe distance, watched in stunned silence as the monstrous being was erased from existence. The HSS Resolute remained, surrounded by the fading remains of its enemy. Once again, humanity had won. Back aboard the Salvini command ship, Commander Vec sat in silence. His officers stared at their displays, unable to comprehend what they had just witnessed. "Their ship," one of them whispered. "It's still standing." Vec exhaled. The humans had not only survived, they had defeated the most terrifying entity he had ever encountered. And that terrified him more than the Star Reaper itself. A transmission came through. Voss's face appeared on screen, calm as ever. "You're welcome," the human captain said. Vec's claws tightened. "You promised me answers, human." Voss nodded. "I did. And I will give them to you. But you won't like what you hear." Vec leaned forward, his voice low. "Try me." Voss's expression darkened slightly. "The Star Reapers are ancient. They are not from our time, and they do not attack randomly." Vec frowned. "What are you saying?" Voss met his gaze. "I'm saying we didn't find them. They found us." Salvini officers tensed. A feeling of unease settled over the room. This was not over, it had only just begun. The battlefield was silent. The HSS Resolute floated among the drifting remains of the Star Reaper. From a distance, the Salvini fleet watched in disbelief. Their warships, powerless against the creature, now faced an even greater mystery. Commander Vec sat in his command chair, his golden eyes locked on the screen. The human ship had survived. It had destroyed an enemy none of them could even scratch. And now, Captain Elias Voss had promised him answers. A transmission request blinked on Vec's display. He took a slow breath before accepting it. Voss's face appeared, calm, unreadable, his dark eyes carrying the weight of something far greater than this battle. Vec spoke first. "You said these creatures did not attack randomly." Voss nodded. "That's right." The Salvini commander narrowed his eyes. "Then tell me, human. What are they?" Voss leaned forward slightly. "You call them Star Reapers. But to us, they have another name." He paused, then said in a steady, grim voice, "We call them the Architects of Extinction." A heavy silence followed. Officers on the Salvini bridge exchanged uneasy glances. The name alone carried a weight that sent a chill through the air. Vec's claws tapped against the armrest. "Explain." Voss exhaled. We first encountered them over a century ago at the edges of human space. At first, we thought they were some unknown cosmic phenomenon, a natural disaster, a wandering force of destruction. He shook his head. But we were wrong. Very wrong. Vec listened carefully. He had the distinct feeling that what he was about to hear would change everything. These creatures are not simple predators, Voss continued. They don't just destroy fleets. They erase history. Vec frowned. What do you mean? They don't leave survivors. They don't leave ruins. They don't even leave a trace of the civilizations they consume. The Salvini bridge was deathly silent. We found out the hard way, Voss said. We lost entire colonies before we understood what we were facing. Millions of lives vanished. No distress signals. No wreckage. Just emptiness. Vec leaned forward, claws digging into his armrests. And how did you stop them? Voss's jaw tightened. We didn't. We ran. The Salvini officers stared in shock. The humans, who had just destroyed a Star Reaper, had fled from them before. Vec narrowed his eyes. That is not the answer I expected. Voss exhaled. Believe me, it's not the answer we wanted either. But we weren't ready. We didn't have the technology to fight back, not then. So we made a hard choice. We abandoned entire sectors. Destroyed our own star systems to erase our trail. Vec stiffened. You burned your own worlds? Voss nodded. It was the only way to survive. A strange chill ran down Vec's spine. And you think this one came here because it was hunting you? Voss met his gaze. Not just us. All of us. The weight of those words sank in. For the first time in his life, Vec felt small. This was not a simple war. This was something greater. Older. Far more dangerous than any empire or fleet. Voss broke the silence. I know you Salvini think of us as a young race, arrogant, reckless. Vec said nothing. But we've been fighting this war long before you even knew it existed. Voss's voice darkened. And I'm telling you, Commander, this is only the beginning. Vec sat back, his mind racing. The Salvini Dominion had always believed they were the dominant force in the galaxy. Their fleets were unmatched. Their warriors, the most feared. But now, for the first time, he wasn't sure anymore. His second-in-command, Toruk, hesitated. Commander, if the humans speak the truth, then what do we do? Vec's golden eyes flicked to Voss, who waited for his response. The Salvini had always fought alone. Always relied on their own strength. But this enemy was beyond strength. Vec took a slow breath. His next words would change the fate of his people. We do something we have never done before, he said quietly. Toruk frowned. What is that, sir? Vec's gaze locked onto Voss's. We fight together. A small smile touched Voss's lips. You're making the right choice, Commander. Vec grunted. Don't make me regret it, human. Voss's eyes hardened. Then let's get to work. Where the Star Reapers had been detected before Voss gestured toward the display we know. They target advanced civilizations. We know they strike quickly and leave nothing behind, but we also know something new. He turned to Vec. They can be hurt. The Sand Commander crossed his arms. You believe we can destroy them completely? Voss nodded. Not just destroy them, hunt them. Vec's officers exchanged uneasy glances. Toruk, his second in command, stepped forward. This is madness. We barely survived one of them. You expect us to go looking for more? Voss met his gaze. If we wait, they will find us first, and then it's over. Silence. Vec's claws tapped against the table. Then slowly he nodded. What do you suggest, human? Voss turned back to the display. There is a system deep in neutral space, abandoned for centuries. It was once home to an advanced species wiped out long before humans entered the galactic stage. He zoomed in on a dead planet, its surface cracked and lifeless. We believe this was one of their first targets. Vec's eyes narrowed. You think they left something behind? Voss's jaw Titan, I think if we're going to find a weakness it will be their torque, scoffed. And if it's a trap, Voss smirked, then at least we'll know we're heading in the right direction, into the unknown. The fleet moved swiftly, crossing light years in mere hours as the ships dropped out of warp. The dead planet came into view, a massive ruined world, its surface covered in deep scars from battles long forgotten. The sight made Vac easy as people had always believed that Salon were the strongest warriors in the galaxy, but this planet was proof that others had fought before them and lost. The resolute sensors flickered strange energy readings, reported Lieutenant Ren, coming from beneath the surface. Voss and Vac exchanged a glance. Looks like we're going down, Voss muttered. The ruins below the landing craft touched down on the cracked ground, dust swirling around it. Voss, Vec, and a team of elite soldiers, both human and Sani, stepped out, weapons ready. Ancient ruins stretched before them, massive structures built by a long-dead species. Strange symbols line the walls, some glowing faintly despite the ages. This place is unnatural, growled Aelin warrior, scanning the ruins cautiously. Voss moved forward, running his fingers over one of the symbols. Whatever happened here, it was fast. Then a low hum, the ground shook slightly, the symbols glowed brighter. The team tensed. Weapons raised. Torek, I told you it's a trap. But Voss wasn't so sure. He stepped carefully toward the center of the ruins, where a strange device rested, covered in dust and cracks. Ren's voice crackled over the comms, Captain, you're not going to believe this. That thing, it's still active. Voss's heart pounded. They had just found something the Star Reapers didn't erase. Verk knelt beside the device's claws, gently brushing over its surface. His expression, usually unreadable, showed something close to awe. This is a weapon, he realized. Voss's eyes widened. A weapon that survived. Vac nodded. And if it survived, Voss finished the thought, it might be the key to killing them for good. The shadows returned. Suddenly a pulse of energy burst from the device, shooting into the sky like a beacon. A moment later the comm screamed with warning signals. Captain, multiple contacts appearing. The shadows in the sky shifted. They were here, Vac growled. They followed us. Voss clenched his jaw. No, they were already watching, and now they know we found this. Above them dark shapes began to descend, their forms flickering in and out of sight. Tack bared his fangs. We have what we came for. Now we must survive. Voss turned to his team. Defensive positions, hold the line. The air grew cold, filled with an unnatural hum. The ground itself seemed to tremble as the creatures drew closer. Vac gripped his weapon. If this is the beginning of the war, human, Voss smirked. Then let's make sure we win it. The sky darkened, and the battle began. The ground shook as the shadows descended from the sky. The Star Reapers had arrived. Captain Ilis, Voss, and Commander Vec stood shoulder to shoulder, their weapons ready as their soldiers formed a defensive line around the ancient device. This was it, the battle that would decide the future of both humans and Sani. A war of shadows. The first wave came fast. Dark shifting creatures that moved like liquid, their forms flickering between solid and intangible. Open fire. Voss commanded. A storm of plasma blasts and energy beams erupted from the solders, weapons lighting up the battlefield. The Star Reapers screeched, their bodies twisting as they tried to avoid the attacks. Some were hit, their forms breaking apart like shattered glass, but others pushed forward completely unfazed. Vac charged, his blade humming with energy. He slashed through one of the creatures, its body splitting in two before vanishing into the air. Tack and its Salon warriors fought fiercely, using their claws and energy weapons to tear through the enemy, but for every Star Reaper they destroyed, more appeared. They just keep coming, shouted Lieutenant Ren, blasting another creature apart. Voss gritted his teeth. We need to activate that weapon. A race against time. The ancient device glowed brighter, its strange symbols pulsing as if awakening from a deep sleep. Voss turned to his engineer chief. Reading, how much longer? Reading frantically worked at the controls. I don't know, this thing is old. The interface is barely functioning. Voss shot a creature midair, watching it dissolve. Then work faster. The Star Reapers were relentless. The Selvan warships above rained down support fire, trying to hold back the enemy forces. The HSS Resolute unleashed shockwave missiles, creating momentary gaps in the battle, but it wasn't enough. A massive Reaper, larger than the rest, descended. Its form was almost solid, its body shifting between reality and something beyond understanding. It landed with a thunderous impact, the ground cracking beneath it. The battlefield fell Silent for a moment, then "You cannot stop us," the voice echoed inside their minds. Like a whisper from another dimension, Voss staggered, his vision blurring. The pressure was overwhelming, like a storm raging inside his head. Several soldiers collapsed, gripping their skulls in agony. Even Varric stumbled, his golden eyes flickering in pain. But then the ancient device activated. The weapon awakens. A pulse of energy exploded outward, a shock wave of pure light spreading across the battlefield. The Star Reapers screamed, their forms flickering wildly. Some were instantly vaporized, their shadows ripped apart by the energy wave. The massive Reaper recoiled, its body shifting erratically as if struggling to stay in reality. Voss took a deep breath, his mind clear again. The pulse had broken their control. "It's working," Ren shouted. Vac grinned. "Then let's finish this." The final blow, the ancient weapon hummed, charging up. One final blast. Voss raised his communicator. "Resolute, target the energy signature and sync your fire above." The Resolute's main cannon locked onto the device, its systems aligning for a perfect shot. The massive Reaper lunged, realizing the danger, but it was too late. The ancient weapon fired a beam of pure white energy cutting through the darkness. At the same moment, the Resolute unleashed a full-powered plasma barrage, striking the Reaper directly in its core. For a split second, the battlefield was blindingly bright, then silenced. The Star Reapers were gone. Every trace of their existence had been erased from the battlefield. A new dawn. The dust settled. Vac looked around, his warriors still standing, their bodies covered in battle scars, but alive. Voss exhaled, lowering his weapon. His team had survived. Tor, still gripping his blade, let out a deep breath. "Is it over?" Voss stared at the room, now quiet once more. "For now." Vex stepped beside him. "We fought together, human, and we won." Voss smirked. "Not bad for a first team up." The Sand Commander chuckled. "Perhaps not the last." In the sky, the HSS Resolute and its Sani warships hovered victorious. The battle had been won, but a larger war loomed beyond the stars. The Star Reapers were gone from this battlefield, but they would return, and next time humanity and at Salon would be ready.